Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So, in the last episode, I spoke about um, designing for web accessibility, right? So, in this episode, I'm gonna extend a bit more on that concept, and we're gonna talk about color and other aspect, right? Now, when you're designing, right, for a web page, oh sorry, when you're designing a web page, the few things you need to consider, right? I spoke about, how uh, the font should be like, right? And how it should have uh, option to slide the text, right? Uh, and how, if you're using an image, right, how it should read out, right? How it should have all text. So I spoke about that, right, which is great. Now, uh, I just wanted to touch about the color, though we don't pay much attention to color, right? If you're not a designer, you will not pay much attention to color. You say, oh, I mean, like I'm not a designer, right? My color choice sucks. Like, you know, so my daughter, she draws, beautiful pictures and kind of stuff, right? When she look at she'll look at the stuff I do, she said, Dad, that sucks. You have a very bad choice for design. I get it. I don't have it, right? So if you are a designer, right, you obviously pay attention to color, right? And color makes a lot of difference. Now, the reason why I say that, right, when I look at certain web page, right, certain kind of color like triggers me headache, right? It and certain kind of image triggers me headache, right? Certain kind of patterns really triggers me headache, right? It just makes me feel a bit weird when I look at it for a longer period of time. And sometimes people are colorblind, right? They can't really represent, they can't really um, identify, or can't tell the difference between certain colors, right? It happens, right? And so you need to pay attention to all of these things when you're building for a solution. Sorry, when you're building a solution. So certain colors provides meaning, like for instance, in certain culture, right? Certain color means certain things. So if you're building a solution for a people targeting to certain culture, like for instance, green, right? Green means in some culture means growth. It means prosperity, right? It means something else in different cultures. So if you're targeting a solution specific to certain people, and it has a cultural aspect to it, then you need to make sure you represent certain color, which means certain things, right? Which is appropriate to that culture. You might think, what is the context, right? Well, I'm talking about the cultural perspective. You'll be surprised, right? Certain solutions, right, if done in the right way, has a high adoption rate among those people because it kind of um, resonates with them in a better way. It's a human psychology, right? If you ever had a chance to read Carl Jung, I would highly encourage you to read it, right? You will understand what I'm trying to say from a cultural and color perspective. Um, from a Salesforce perspective, right? Or not from a Salesforce perspective, like for instance here, um, this one, right? Green means it's normal, right? It's connected. Red means it's not connected, right? This is pretty obvious. I mean, even if the user looks at it and say, okay, so that means we have, connected, not connected. But um, and also from a Salesforce perspective, right? Um, if you're building a solution, right, certain things Salesforce does very well. The first thing, like if you're trying to uh, save information, right, to save a record, and if, so for instance, something is missing, right? If you forgot to fill a mandatory field, when you try to save it, it brings up with the message saying, "Hey, XYZ field is missing." And when you scroll down or scroll up, you will see that the specific field which needs to be filled is highlighted in red, right? So that's one way, right? That's one way of giving a better user experience. Because at the end of the day, right, your software adoption rate depends upon the experience you provide to the user. And if people struggle to use your software because it's in the form of readability or accessibility or, in forms of ease of usage, then, adoption rate can differ and can cause some challenges to the business, right? So it's very important to pay attention to that. I'm not talking just from a Salesforce perspective, right? Tomorrow you might go and work in a different technology, right? You might say get an opportunity to work in SAP, or you might be building your own in-house software. So you need to pay attention to these concepts, right? Like I said, I'm not a UX designer, right? I don't have a really good eye for design, but there are certain things which is useful for me. Even when I design a solution, I design solution for Salesforce. I design solution for non-Salesforce tech as well, right? So I try to bring, learn from different tech and use it in different place, right? If if I can do that, because a lot of things you can cross over, right? And I believe we are heading towards a technology agnostic society where a lot of things will be technology independent. You will have a base framework and you build on top of it, something like that, right? And it's fantastic, right? I mean, we like today Salesforce exists, right? Tomorrow it may not exist, right? You never know, right? I mean, let's accept the fact that Salesforce is not one of the cutting edge technology out there. It is a business solution, right? It's a CRM. It's not like you're building a compiler or you're building a cutting edge AI, computer vision model or a language model, right? It's not. I mean, though Salesforce integrated it, that's a different story. But what I'm trying to say is that, technology changes, right? So whatever you learn from here, you can reuse it in different parts of the solution, no matter if it's in a React.js or AngularJS or Vue.js or you're building a .NET framework project, right? Or for that matter, a Java project. You can use that this concept there as well, right? So yeah, that's being said, that's all I wanted to talk about from a design for web accessibility. There are a lot of things you can talk about, right? You can also talk about error handling. What happens when user experience error? How do you represent it, right? Do you represent in the form of red background, or you represent in the form of a uh, you know different color? What happens if it's a warning? You represent in the form of yellow. So color matters, right? So sometimes you might be used to say a red color for error in your previous solution, right? And or for that matter, most of the solutions you have worked in the past. So if you experience something different, right? Say for instance Salesforce, then you might be thinking, is it an error or is it what, right? So it's important that color uh, when you are demonstrating an information in the form of color, you should make sure that the color is uh, universally adopted, and at times I would say that you may not able to say that it's universally adopted, but at least from the target population perspective, that color means something to them, right? So that's all I wanted to say. So that being said, hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Adios.